Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Very Cold Lasagna podcast. I'm your host, Dylan Lasagna, once again bringing you all the filthy casual takes on the world of sports for you sports fans out there like you and me. This is episode number 326, and in this episode, we're here to review the 2025 NFL Divisional Playoff Weekend, aka the second round, the conference semifinals in the 2025 playoffs. Playoffs? Yes, playoffs. So, on paper, it was a little bit of an interesting slate in our Elite Eight. So, there were some expectations for many people for these slate of games to deliver once again after what was mostly a pretty entertaining and pretty wild card weekend. So, expectations were high for the divisional slate to deliver. As this was gonna be on paper another good slate of football to come. As we get down to the wire, and then next week is Conference Championship Sunday, and then in a couple weeks it'll be the Super Bowl. So we're gonna talk about all these games, give you my highlights from both teams' perspectives in each of these games, and what's next for the losers as they head into their off seasons. So before we get started, if you're new, make sure if you're watching this on YouTube, hit that subscribe button, turn on the notification bell, leave a comment down below on your takes. And if your team happens to be on the winning side, share your love for your team. Or if your team happens to be on the losing side, tell them what went wrong and what they can fix in the off season, or you're at least hoping what they can fix in the off season. And if you happen to be listening to this on audio, make sure you rate and review the show, and follow me on social media on Twitter and Instagram at Very Cold Lasagna. Share the love about this podcast entitled Very Cold Lasagna. And with that being said, let's get the ball rolling in talking about the 2025 NFL Divisional Playoffs. So, as I said, this is the conference semifinals of the NFL playoffs to see who moves on to the Conference Championship Sunday, aka the Conference Finals, the penultimate round of these playoffs to see who decides who goes on to Championship Sunday, the real Championship Sunday, aka the Super Bowl. So this weekend kicked off with the top-seeded Denver Broncos taking on the 6th-seeded Buffalo Bills. As I mentioned in the divisional playoffs, they didn't play each other this season, but this is a rematch of last year's AFC wildcard game in Buffalo that the Bills won in Buffalo. They scored 31 unanswered points after allowing Denver to score on the very first play. And this game went to the distance. The Bills overcame a 20-10 halftime deficit to take a 24-23 lead before Denver retook that lead. And the Bills sent it to overtime on a late field goal. In the extra period, Jalen McMillan stole a potential field goal setup catch from Brandon Cooks that was thrown to Josh Allen before Bo Nix led the Broncos down to their own field goal range for Will Lutz to kick the game winner and move on to the AFC title game as they won this one 33-30 in overtime. But this win, though, did come at a price. But let's talk about this game and my highlights from it from the Bills side of things, because this game was it was a lot of highs and lows from the Bills side, from the Bills POV. The defense did not exactly play well from the opening jump. They got away with a little Jordan Humphrey drop on defense. The defense, they got torched from the opening, but they managed to hold serve with only allowing 3 points. But the Bills offense, they fared well in their opening start. On the contrary, Josh Allen and James Cook, they were gashing Denver's run defense. And Allen got the first point of the game for the Bills with a short pass to McCole Hardman. So while they're still able to do things offensively, they were their own worst enemy for a lot of this game. Bad turnovers from James Cook. He fumbled as the Bills were trying to score, and especially Josh Allen. Josh Allen was his own worst enemy in this game. Allen needlessly ran with the ball. He had the ball sticking out for Nick Bonito to strip him of it. That allowed Denver to get 3 more points right after they scored a touchdown to take the lead 17-10 going to halftime. And I don't know why the Bills even tried to like score when they had no timeouts. They tried to play the sideline game, but they should have just took the knee, go into halftime. Just go into halftime with a 17-10 deficit. Don't get too cute, but they ended up going cute, and they paid the price for it. But the turnover fest didn't end there. Josh Allen got strip sacked by Bonito on their opening second half drive. Luckily, they only got 3 points, allowed on that. And then he threw a dead straight pick right after Bo Nix threw his own interception. So yeah, he threw 2 interceptions and then fumbled the ball twice. And this is just in 3 quarters. And there was even more to come from Josh Allen. So he did not exactly play a good game, even though he was still a clutch time QB in this one. Meanwhile, the defense was just repeatedly getting gashed in all facets by Nix in this Denver offense in the first half and pretty often. They initially held serve in the opening drive, like I said, but they just embarrassed themselves by allowing Nix getting multiple 10+ yard throws to Marvin Mims and RJ Harvey. And this is when they even lost I forgot the name, but anyway, that was when they lost one of their receivers to a concussion for the rest of the game on the opening drive. And then that defensive backfield secondary, they lost more guys to injury, and they were already missing Jordan Boyer and not Tre'Davious White. I think he had to step in for one play, but that was it. Oh no, Darnell Savage. Darnell Savage had to step in for one play for Cam Lewis, but then he got burned by Jordan Humphrey to haul in a makeup touchdown that he missed on the opening play. So yeah, that wasn't great. And then a drive earlier, they allowed a big man touchdown. Yeah, they allowed an eligible offensive lineman to score on them, and they didn't even see it coming. That was embarrassing. But they did a little bit better in the second half. They forced more pressure on Bo Nix, and they stuffed the run, so they didn't allow many successful run attempts. And they only allowed 10 more points to allow Josh Allen to claw back and his offense to claw back into it. So yeah, that's what Allen did in the fourth. Trying to get that team back into it, and that was despite 2 turnovers in the third. And they tied the game. But in overtime, and Josh Allen had a beauty ball. He threw a very nice ball to Brandon Cooks, which would have given the Bills a position to win it. But Jalen McMillan made a heads-up play, and some people have been arguing still that that was a clean catch. He was down by contact, but regardless, I mean, I'm kind of in that camp, but it is what it kind of is what it is. Jalen McMillan, he made a heads up play. He made a heads up play at the end of the day and just snatched that away from Brandon Cooks. So yeah, it's a heads up play by McMillan to kind of save the Broncos' asses from losing that game, because they didn't exactly do anything on offense to start overtime. And then that defense folded once more for Buffalo through the power of ref ball. They set themselves up for pass interference bullshit calls, and they saw their season once again fall short of a Super Bowl appearance, losing that game. So you saw the path to a Lombardi, your first Super Bowl appearance in over 30 years. You saw it wide open. No Lamar Jackson, no Joe Burrow, and no especially Patrick Mahomes standing in the way of AFC Championship appearance and winning an AFC Championship and going to the Super Bowl and potentially winning it. Yet the Bills couldn't even get to that point. of an AFC title game. The whole team, which includes Josh Allen, like we can't absolve blame from Josh Allen because he turned over the ball 4 times. 3 of them were his fault. I can't really necessarily put blame on the last one that he did. Yeah, this Josh Allen, his whole team, they shit the bed in this one. And they got in their own way to prevent what was a makeable Super Bowl appearance. Like, there are no guarantees for next year because Lamar Jackson, under a new head coach, he'll probably be back. Joe Burrow, hopefully with the better defense, could be back, especially given with how that offense played despite getting eliminated from contention, how, they showed their potential of what they could have been. And especially Patrick Mahomes, depending on when he's ready to go and how they retool that team in the offseason, he'll certainly be back. So they wasted an opportunity to go to the Super Bowl. Meanwhile, you look at the Denver Broncos. Bo Nix looked very efficient on the opening drive, but it was a opening drive that was ruined by a little Jordan Humphrey dropping a gimme touchdown. But he made up for it later on with that touchdown catch late in the second quarter. But they ended up losing Pat Bryant for the rest of the game to a concussion. So that was one receiver down for Denver. And that affected, prior to that touchdown from Jordan Humphrey, that affected Bo Nix in the passing game for like several minutes in the first half. Bo Nix, I believe, went 0 for 6 in passing, and they punted on two drives before finding Marvin Mims for a big gain. And the offensive lineman Frank Crum for their first touchdowns of the game. So yeah. And then obviously you had the Jordan Humphrey redemption touchdown. Meanwhile, that Denver defense, they overcame a sluggish start, allowing the Bills' first touchdown. They came away with 2 key first half turnovers. The one being the James Cook fumble near their red zone to turn the Bills away, and then Nick Benito's 2 strip fumbles on Josh Allen, one to end the first half, and then one to start the second half. So yeah, they were really hounding all over Josh Allen in this game, even though they only mustered 6 points total, and yeah, both sides essentially slowed down for the rest of the regulation period to allow the Bills to take the lead and then take this game into an overtime. But in the end, the stalling for both of these teams, it continued pretty much to it continued into the extra period initially as this game went into next score wins danger territory, and you nearly saw the Broncos dream season come to a close. But again, McMillan made the play of the game, made the season-saving play, snatching that live ball from Brandon Cooks. Again, it's debatable on whether it was a catch, but hey, you got to make the plays that matter. And yeah, Bo Nix in the offense woke up just in time to mess up with that Bills broken secondary into ref ball pass interferences to get the game winner. So overall, when you look at this Broncos team, yeah, big win for them. It was a big win for them. Their first playoff win since a decade, when they went to the Super Bowl in Santa Clara and won the Super Bowl with Peyton Manning in his last ever Super Bowl win, his game, and all that jazz. Yeah, they had every right to be initially ecstatic about it. And now they're going on to the AFC Championship game, rightfully so. But man, less than an hour after all that positivity, all the excitement that the Mile High Broncos fans had, it was like right during the kickoff of the next game. It was just like such a gut punch. It was like all the energy was just wiped away. It was like Thanos snapped because everyone learned from Sean Payne. Like, he came right back to the podium after he was done with this his media presser. Yeah, he told everyone that Bo Nix uh, suffered a season-ending broken ankle. He broke a bone in his ankle on, of all things, the final kneel down to set up the game-winning field goal. So, man, that's a major super kick. That's like sweet chin music to Bo Nix in his short playoff stint, and potentially Denver's hopes to go into the Super Bowl. Like, what a gut punch! Like that is really unfortunate for them. And now they got to turn to backup Jarrett Stidham to win this very tall task of a game with the Super Bowl trip on the line. And even if they somehow make it to the Super Bowl, it's going to be a very tall task for them. Like an even bigger, tall task. So, man, yeah, it's a big win, but at what cost, though? At what cost? So, yeah, just very tough for the Mile High, man. So, on the other hand, the Bills, they're moving on to the offseason. Another early playoff exit for the Bills. No Super Bowl appearance. So, when you look at this offseason, I have to ask the question again. Every time the Bills have reached this point, they come up either 2 wins or 1 win short of a Super Bowl. I've asked this question like how many years now? Like 2-3 years since I started covering the playoffs. Like, at what point do you fire Sean McDermott? Because sure, he's brought the Bills back to relevancy and back into playoff contention, but he hasn't exactly made the best decisions. And again, like, some of this can be attributed to Josh Allen, and some of it can be attributed to the subpar defense. But at the same time, he also makes a lot of questionable decisions, coaching decisions in the game's biggest moments, the game's biggest minutes. So, and that has resulted in the Bills under McDermott failing to make the Super Bowl, despite many chances to do so. This especially was the biggest opportunity for McDermott and company to make it with all the major competition, at least the major proven competition. So, I don't know. Like, I think now's the best time, if we're being honest, to make change. I mean, I said it's been time for change in Buffalo. I said it 2 years ago when they had wide right 2.0 that McDermott needs to go. I've said it last year when they lost the AFC Championship game to Kansas City. McDermott needs to go. But, after another heartbreaker that I think for the first time in ever, you saw Josh Allen crying because he knew that this was their best chance to actually go the distance. Yeah, I think it's time for a change. And I might as well bring general manager Brandon Beane go, because, at what point do you not see like that for as much playoff success that that regime has been bringing to Buffalo? At what point do they continue to keep on going without a Super Bowl appearance to their name, despite the playoff success? And yeah, how much longer can you keep it going until you keep on wasting Josh Allen's prime? I say now is the right time to do it. It's time for ownership to make that change. Open up with a clean slate before more years of Josh Allen's prime is wasted. But regardless of if they're fired or not, there's at least one thing that they have to focus on, and that is adding some help around Josh Allen, especially at the receiver position. Like, you saw this season that their receiver by committee approach that they took it to last season and again this season. This year especially, it was falling apart with injury mania running wild, and not even a number 2 receiver that you can really name for Josh Allen. So vertical deep threats, they are desperately needed. It's been missing since Stephon Diggs was traded to Houston a few years ago. So I feel like it's time, whether Sean McDermott and Brandon Beane are here to stay or they get let go, whoever is in charge going forward, they need to give Allen some serious help. Seriously, if the Bills are to compete next season, even like whether it's in the playoffs, but more importantly, against a rising team in the New England Patriots again. So moving on to the next game, we had the NFC Saturday night game. It was the 6th-seeded my San Francisco 49ers taking on the top-seeded Seattle Seahawks in a 3-match of their division series. They split the season series with my Niners winning the first one in week 1 in Seattle, but the Seahawks won the most important matchup 2 weeks ago in week 18 in Santa Clara that got them the NFC West and the NFC's top seed. And this is a 3-match of their playoff series, with the Seahawks beating the Niners in the NFC title game in 2013 and the Niners winning in the 2022 NFC wildcard game. I don't need to say much about this game because I already talked about it so much in length in my dedicated review in the last episode. Yeah, it was basically a dud. It was basically a beatdown from the very beginning that started with Shaheed's big kickoff return touchdown. And yeah, that basically set the tone of a dud, an absolute ass kicking. The 49ers were supposed to get 3 years ago that I thought was going to happen, but now they got it 3 years overdue. The Hawks defense, Kenneth Walker III, destroyed, smashed their division rivals in every level to move on to the NFC Championship game, 41-6. I'm not going to say much about this disaster class because, again, I talked about it in length after this episode. Go check out the previous dedicated 49ers review on this disaster class because there's not a single point where you could say what went wrong because everything did go wrong from the very start for my 49ers, for this beating up 49ers team. Like, yes, it was a major stretch to say that the 49ers could upset the Seahawks, but at the same time, I just want to see some effort. I just want to see some effort from this team. And yet, other than Brock Purdy, other than Christian McCaffrey, nobody showed up to play. Nobody showed up to play in this game. Like, there's no heart. There's no soul. Kyle Shanahan got out-coached. The major flaws in this team, most of the bad drafting that John Lynch has done, it has finally got exposed on national television with probably tens of millions of people watching on Fox. The offensive line can't block for shit. The receivers are too slow to separate. The entire defense couldn't do shit to stop Kenneth Walker III, even with whatever adjustments Robert Saleh was making. Like, nothing was working. Even with whatever people they had left. Yes, some of the people were some of the starters that were all the way back in week 1. They were still there. But nothing. This was an absolute disappointment. This was an embarrassment. I just wanted to see some effort. Yet, they waved the white flag before the game even started. How sad. For the Seahawks, great team performance all the way around. Clearly showed that they were going to be the much superior team from the start. That should put both the Rams and the Bears and whichever team that makes it out of the AFC for the Super Bowl on notice. The defense bullied Christian McCaffrey to the point they forced him out of the game with the stinger, bullied Brock Purdy's offensive line, and they bullied Purdy, making him run for his life and forced him into 2 turnovers in the second half. Kenneth Walker III dog walked all over that 49ers run defense, or the lack thereof. Had 3 touchdowns to his name, and that's despite not having his partner in crime, Zach Charbonnet, because he left the game due to an injury. So, yeah, overall, a very effective night for the Seahawks. Still, though, questions remain on how Sam Darnold's going to fare against a more healthier team in either the Rams or the Bears or against a Denver team or a Patriots team. But the rest of his team is going to help him along the way in the next game and if they make the Super Bowl. So I talked about this in my dedicated review, but I'll just brief on this about my 49ers as they now enter the offseason. As I mentioned, hopefully this nationally televised primetime embarrassment will finally force Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch's hands to finally blow up this very crappy offensive line and invest in a proper one. Outside of Trent Williams, who mentioned in his post-game end of season presser that he is going to come back, barring a change of heart, that he was going to retire. But yeah, you have to invest in the offensive line. Like, you cannot have Brock Purdy running for his life for, I don't know how many seasons, like ever since he entered the NFL. You cannot put up with this shit. Keep in mind that I believe that I think John Lynch is entering the last year of his last offseason year as general manager. So if he fails again, don't expect Jed York to keep him around. For as cheap as Jed York is, or as hands off as Jed York has been since Cal and John have gotten here, don't expect Jed York to keep him around. If John Lynch has another mid to below average offseason. And then it's also time to get younger in many positions, especially on offense, because almost every skill group around Purdy is old and slow. Their current roster is not sustainable as they now look above the Rams and the Seahawks in the division. Like, you have to start looking towards the future, especially now given that, well, Christian McCaffrey's getting older and he's banged up, and he was your top targeted man. Trent Williams is gonna be 39 at some point. Fred Warner coming off a major injury, but somehow managed to attempt to come back for these playoffs. Nick Bosa coming off a third ACL. Michael Williams coming off an ACL. Like, you have to start looking at youth, and I'll leave it at that. So looking at the Sunday slate of games as we wrap up the divisional playoffs, starting on the AFC side of things, the 2-seeded New England Patriots took on the 5-seeded Houston Texans. These two teams didn't meet in the regular season, but this is the third time that these two have met in the second round. New England winning both of these meetings in 2012 and 2016. Not that much different in this one. While it was a defensive yet sloppy turnover fest, it eventually went in the way of the Patriots, courtesy of Drake May's big touchdown passes to Kayshon Boutte and Stephon Diggs that helped the Patriots clinch their first AFC Championship game since 2018 when Tom Brady was still around. The Patriots thoroughly handled the Texans 28-16. So for the Houston Texans, credit to their top 5 defense. Their top 5 defense really tried their best, just like last week, to keep them in the game. They tried to keep this whole team in the game. They played very well. They forced 3 turnovers on Drake May and the Patriots offense. And they tried to get them around for as much as possible. Especially Will Anderson Jr. had a really great game and shown the world why he's like one of the best players in the NFL, like on defense. But unfortunately, just like how it nearly happened last week, but it finally came to a head this week, their effort was severely undone by CJ Stroud and his turnover fest. Like, Stroud was so bad in this game that I was calling, and pretty much the entire Twitterverse, like almost the entire NFL world, unless if you're Ryan Clark, sucking that CJ Stroud, you know what. But yeah, CJ Stroud did not play well in this game. He succumbed to the pressure. He was underthrowing, overthrowing, and throwing a lot of pressure balls in this game. And yeah, a lot of those pressure balls were really bad. He finished the game with 4 interceptions. Three of them were all his fault because he threw them directly dead in the rights into both Carlton Davis and Craig Woodson. And one of those pressure balls, one of them was to Craig Woodson for a pick 6. Yeah, not great. And going back to what I and the rest of the Twitterverse was rallying around what the NFL Twitterverse was saying. D'Amico Ryans should have benched CJ Stroud for Davis Mills, because Davis Mills, in the few games that he had to play in relief for CJ Stroud, he played much better. He played more efficient. In this game, despite the offensive linemen that the Texans were losing, Davis Mills could at least put up a much better effort against a stout Patriots defense. He would have gotten rid of the ball faster. He would have made better decisions. Even with a lacking receiving core, he would have made the most of what was given to him. But for whatever reason, D'Amico Ryans kept CJ Stroud out there when he was very, very struggling. Yes, I get it. He didn't have Nico Collins, and he wound up losing both his tight ends and more offensive linemen. But it doesn't excuse the fact how terrible he was in doing the simple things. Checking it down, eating sacks. Like, it took him, like, what? A whole first half for him to realize, oh, if I don't want to turn the ball over, if I don't want to eat an interception for a pick 6, why not just I should just eat a sack. Too late for that. So eventually, yeah, those CJ Stroud affected things were eventually going to start affecting the defense too. Because, yeah, they allowed the finishing touchdown from May to Booty, and Stroud was Booty. He couldn't answer that. And, yeah, you knew Stroud wasn't going to be trusted to try to answer that, neither to start this game nor end it, because on their final meaningful drive, D'Amico threw in the towel. He waved the white flag and called for a punt rather than go for it on 4th down in their own territory. Pathetic, man. Pathetic performance from CJ Stroud. Just putrid. Meanwhile, for the Patriots, their defense just played just as well, if not better. They hauled in 5 turnovers, mainly because CJ Stroud played stupid in this game. And yeah, they gave them either short field or, in the case of Craig Woodson, a pick 6. Woodson and Carlton Davis alongside Christian Gonzalez, they played great in shutting down any of CJ Stroud's backup receiving core, or whatever was left of it. But yeah, they played well in the secondary. The defensive front 7, they didn't really have to do a whole lot mentally to get to Stroud, because, well, CJ was doing it to himself. It was basically, just get to within an inch of him and he'll get rattled. Like, all they had to do was follow the damn train, CJ. But that said, though, for as well as the defense did, Drake May still didn't exactly have another good game, despite 2 touchdowns to Demario Davis and Stephon Diggs, as well as the last one to Kayshon Boutte. Yeah, he still didn't exactly have a good game, but yeah, he had the one that mattered most. The finishing score that mattered the most, but still. He also didn't do a good job in protecting the football. He was stripped of the ball 4 times, and half of them were lost to the Texans. His offensive line also had major difficulty in giving him time to make many of the throws to get the run game going. Will Anderson particularly struggled in this game, which was pretty expected, given that the Texans' defensive line pretty much possesses a lot of all pros. So, yeah, that's pretty expected for Will Anderson, an inexperienced rookie left tackle, to hold up his end of the bargain. But hell, I mean, there's some experience though. Regardless of all that, though, like I said, May made that one big play, just like last week, to put the game out of reach for against the Texans. But May will need to be better, though, next week. Now they have to head on the road in the Mile High against another good defense in the Broncos. Even if the fact that Sean Payton is now forced to trot out backup Jarrett Stidham in place of the injured Bo Nix. So if the Patriots want to advance to the Super Bowl at Levi's, they cannot downplay the competition. Especially Drake May cannot downplay it to the competition, as well as Mike Vrabel. So as the Patriots move on to another AFC Championship game, the Texans, they're going to have to be thinking about why they still cannot get to their first ever AFC Championship game, why they're stuck in AFC Divisional Round purgatory. Well, this offseason, they have some things to think about. And one of those things that they should prioritize is not giving CJ Stroud his fifth-year option or giving him any kind of extension, because this season he went through a massive regression from his first 2 years. You can pinpoint towards the coordinator change, or like him maybe getting too big-headed after his rookie year. But regardless, even in the winning streak that they had after starting 0-3, he wasn't playing clean football, and it caught up to him here. So Coach D'Amico Ryans and General Manager Nick Caserio, they gotta get on the same page and come to terms to the fact that giving him his fifth year is not a good idea. Next year should be like the year that he has to prove himself that he can fully rebound. Don't pick up the fifth year option on CJ Stroud, and let's use fall 2026 when the regular season starts up again. Then that's when CJ Stroud will have to prove himself he can fully rebound, or nope, he's gone. He's gone. And then on the other side, you got to get some receiving help. Nico Collins was obviously sorely missed, but so was Tank Dell all season as he was recovering from that very serious leg injury. They did add in Christian Kirk in that offseason trade, but he was mainly just a third receiving option, unfortunately. Maybe the rookie Jane Higgins, who did show a few flashes, maybe he can break out in year two in this coming fall from a long ways away. As Tank Dell hopefully attempts to work his way back, but refilling that receiver room should be a top priority for the Texans as they now enter another offseason full of divisional round failures. So to cap off divisional weekend, we had the 5-seeded LA Rams taking on the Chicago Bears. And man, this was another doozy of a game. They didn't play each other in the regular season, but this is a 3-match of their playoff series from long ways ago where they faced each other. The last time they faced each other was the NFC title game in 1985. The Bears shut out the Rams en route to their Super Bowl 20 victory. It was a low-score, defensive, slippy affair in the snow. Which went to the extra period after Caleb Williams made this crazy big-time throw to tie the game, but he also threw a game-changing interception to Cam Curl that allowed Matthew Stafford to lead the Rams down the field into a Harrison Mevis game-winning field goal to send the LA Rams into the NFC Championship game against the Seattle Seahawks, 20-17. Yeah. So let's talk about it from the LA side of things. Their defense got picked apart all game by Caleb Williams, especially their major weakness, that being the secondary. The Bears' offensive line, meanwhile, really held the Rams' front seven silent from the opening jump, aside from a red zone interception that allowed Matthew Stafford and the offense to drive for the opening touchdown and take the initial lead. They did tighten up in the second half, shutting Caleb in the offense for most of it until the big clutch touchdown. But prior to that, they shut him. They turned him and his offense away from the end zone less than 4 minutes to go. Meanwhile, offensively, outside of the opening touchdown drive, Matthew Stafford and the offense, they were really struggling in bare cold weather. Stafford in particular, he couldn't get on the same page with Puka Nacua and Devontae Adams, who also had trouble separating and getting open from the Bears defense. And those struggles intertwined with the usually good offensive line, which had trouble containing the blitzes that defensive coordinator Dennis Allen was throwing at them. Like, all of a sudden the Bears defense that, is very on and off. They were pretty good in this game until the very end. Kyren Williams in particular also struggled against the Bears run defense for much of the game. But he picked it up in the fourth quarter and found the end zone that seemingly gave them the go-ahead lead on open lane touchdown. But for all of that, though, they couldn't stop the Iceman from delivering one more comeback in his veins and allowed him to deliver a clutch ball to Cole Kmet to send the game in overtime. But the real Iceman was Cam Curl. He came up with a clutch pick on Caleb on the Bears' first and only series in the extra period. And then obviously you had the thick kicker, Harrison Mevis, to send the Rams to Seattle. So it wasn't the prettiest game for the Rams in cold conditions, but yeah, they proved themselves as the real clutch team when it mattered most. Meanwhile, from looking at from the Bears side of things, Caleb Williams, he once again looked really good, leading the offense on a promising opening drive, but that was slammed shut because of Ben Johnson's stubbornness to not go for the three. And yeah, Caleb ended up getting intercepted under pressure in the red zone and away from the end zone. So yeah, like we'll talk more about this like towards like the end of the Bears POV. Like Ben Johnson, he still hasn't learned from the last several games, and in his time in Detroit, he really picked up the bad habit from his mentor Dan Campbell of being too overly aggressive, and he paid for that on that opening drive. But the offense still really responded well to tie the game with a touchdown. And yeah, from there on out though, it was all about the defense for not just the Rams, but for the Bears too. They had to pick up the slack because the offense slowed down. Dennis Allen called a lot of good blitzes, notably from Jaquan Brisker and Kyler Gordon. One of the more notable instances was a mid-third quarter thing where Caleb threw a bad mid-range pick to Kobe Durant, yet they didn't let Stafford and the offense get anything out of it. I think it was on because of a sack, yet again called by Dennis Allen on a blitz. But unfortunately, because the offense couldn't do anything, and both of these defenses were starting to get worn out, the Bears eventually caved when Stafford drove down the offense to the Bears goal line, and Kyren Williams got the go-ahead 17-10 lead. But yeah, despite stalling out in the red zone and seemingly primed for defeat, the Bears got that defensive stop that they needed to claw back into the game. And Caleb Williams, my God, man, like he threw up like one of the wildest, craziest last gasp fourth down throws like I have ever seen in my life. He was just like backing up. Like I was screaming, like why are you going so far, like towards mid, like well below, like well back midfield from the Rams, and he was just yeeting it away, like he's just like yeeting it all the way up in the air, and then you have Cole Kmet wide open, and he did his best Luigi wins by doing absolutely nothing impression, and he's just there. He's just there to get the touchdown that it almost ties the game, and then Caio Santos gets the overtime sending extra point. Like, damn, like the Bears still had that clutch gene in them, and then they had almost every opportunity to win the game in the extra period and go to the NFC Championship game, but man, this is where Ben Johnson and Caleb's greediness just came back to bite them. And Caleb threw a dead to the rights pick to Cam Curl. And yeah, that's where they lost the game. Now an argument can be made that DJ Moore sold that interception by stopping on his route. He gave up on his route and allowed that pick to happen. But why not just throw a check down to Colston Loveland, because it was only 2nd and 8 when that pick happened. Like, why Why go aggressive? Why get greedy at that point when you only needed like a couple plays just to get into Kairos Santos' range? Like, you still had plenty of time. Like, even if you were still like tied, like it was like 17 all, like you still had another overtime period. You could have still went into double overtime, and you had a 2-minute warning to go and make a couple plays, get into field goal range, and then boom, you're on to Seattle. But no, they got too greedy. So yeah, a roller coaster season comes to an end. There was no the comeback from the Iceman just falls just short. But Caleb played well in this, and he made as many cases as possible to play in the NFC Championship game. But the 3 interceptions, like especially the final one, wasn't great. And that's something that he's going to be thinking about very long for the next 7 months. Ben Johnson, too, deserves a lot of the blame, probably more so than Caleb. He pulled a Dan Campbell in this game, being overly aggressive on 4th down rather than go for the point, rather than take a field goal on their opening drive, which, could have made a big impact. And some of the play calls were questionable, too. Like, one of the drives saw him, have his running back run the ball for like 2 straight plays, which failed. And then on the red zone drive before, the hurry up drive, which they somehow managed to stop, he called 3 straight run plays. And then, then when that failed, they decided to have Caleb throw. Like, Ben Johnson in that drive took the ball away from Caleb's hands. Like, he cannot do that when they are down 17-10. So yeah, overall, this is a loss that they're going to be thinking about all offseason. And, it's one of those that they let it get away. They let it get away. So when you look at the Bears, as they head into an offseason that, what could have been for them in the playoffs, for the good side of it is Ben Johnson and Ryan Poles, they set and built a foundation for this offense with a really good offensive line. They're set a receiver with Romeo Odunze, DJ Moore, and you have a potential third receiver in Luther Burden III. Obviously, you have Caleb Williams. You have a 2 tight end set with Cole Kmet and Colston Loveland. So you're pretty much set there. Now this offseason should be focused on getting help on defense, especially in the trenches, because there wasn't much behind Grady Jarrett and Montez Sweat. So he barely had any pass rush. Although they did pretty good on Sunday night against the Rams. But they have to make some decisions on some key players in the secondary behind Jalen Johnson and Kyler Gordon, notably Nashawn Wright and Jaquan Brisker. And that safety position is going to be very interesting to watch in free agency for them. And they don't have a lot of cap space to do it. They only have $5 million in cap space. So that's pretty little for the Bears after all the offseason spending that they had last year. So a lot of tough decisions for the Bears in terms of what they have to do in the offseason. Obviously, the main priority is defense, but they don't have a lot of money to do it. So yeah, as they're now one of the top teams in the NFC, especially after tonight, even though they came up short. A lot of things to think about as they try to build on the other side of the ball now as they go into next year. So overall, this divisional weekend, not exactly a good follow-up to wildcard weekend. Half of the games were the first and the last game were really good, but the in between, the sandwich, the middle portion, it sucked. It really sucked. When you have a burger, when you have a burger, the bun was good, but then the patty was dog shit. The actual burger itself was pretty bad. Think of it what's the worst burger I've ever had? like, I don't know, maybe Jack in the Box or no, Jack in the Box is okay. But I don't know. I can't think of it at the moment. Like the worst burger that you ever had. Think of that. Those two divisional games, those were really bad. Like that's the bad burger. That's the worst burger we've ever had. And the buns above that, like that are holding those worst burgers. That's the two divisional games to begin and close divisional weekend 2025. So, yeah, we're now moving on to Conference Championship Sunday. On the AFC side, you have the 2-seeded New England Patriots and the number 1 seeded Denver Broncos that are now locking Bo Nix. On the NFC side, you have the 5-seeded LA Rams and the top-seeded Seattle Seahawks, which Niner fans and like myself, probably dreading. It's going to be a tough dread. But we got to talk about it here on the Very Cold Lasagna podcast, unfortunately. But let me know your thoughts on all these games from divisional weekend. If you're watching this on YouTube, lay down in the comments. If your team happened to win or lose on divisional weekend, let's talk about it in the comments. Or if you're listening to this on whatever podcast network you're on, send me a message on my socials at Very Cold Lasagna. DM me and we can have a conversation there. So that is it for this episode of the Very Cold Lasagna podcast, episode number 326 of this icy yet spicy podcast. I have been your host, Dylan Lasagna, once again bringing you those takes, and on we go to Conference Championship Sunday, and we'll see who gets the right to play in the Super Bowl, and more importantly, which NFC West team that's not the Niners gets to play in the Super Bowl. Let's just hope someone from the NFC, not the NFC, the AFC stops the Rams or the Seahawks, man. Like, for Christ's sakes. But anyway, until that time comes when we talk about the AFC and NFC championship games, until that time comes, until the next episode or two, peace out.